In 1974, the first tabletop role-playing game was created. Since then, people from all around have gathered to play. Join me as we talk with RPG enthusiasts while they share their best, worst, and favorite moments. This is You Had to Be There. Hey everyone, welcome to You Had to Be There, a D&D storytelling podcast. If you're your first time joining us here on the stream, pretty much we sit down with tabletop role-playing game nerds such as ourselves, and we talk about some fun stories. If you want to be a guest on the show, it's pretty easy too. You can either just follow me here on Twitch, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, and then you shoot me an email at youhadtobethere@gmail.com. Or you just get to be, if I'll reach out to you if I think you're cool and I find out you play Dungeons and Dragons. Which will lead me to, my guest today is actually a fellow stand-up comedian, much funnier than I am, but I've had the pleasure of being on a couple shows with him. Give it up for Dennis Rooney, everybody.
Hey, what's going on, man? Thanks for having me on. Thank you for the nice words.
Yeah, of course, man. Well,
First you called me a nerd. You called yourself a nerd, and everyone who listens is a nerd. But
we are.
I mean, it's pretty nerdy.
Well, when I had Katrina Reese on, we kind of got on the topic of, like, what makes someone a nerd, and I think, like, anyone that makes someone a nerd is, like, if you have an underlying obsession with something, then you're probably still a nerd, like sports or whatever. Like,
also, like, nerdiness is coming back around. You know what I mean?
Oh,
It
yeah.
ain't the 80s anymore.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, that's...
If you're not a nerd, it's like you're boring. You don't have any interests.
Yeah, I remember... I worked at one point, I won't use names because they're real people, but, like, I worked at a radio station for a while, and, like, one of the hosts on the radio station was, like, this kind of hardened dude from the 80s, and I just remember him, like, flipping out one day because he saw, like, some like, dude with, like, he got this pop figurine, and he was, like, super pumped about it, and he's like, and his girlfriend was smoking hot, I don't understand, and he was, like, freaking out, and I was like, dude, time to change, man, like, nerds are hot now, like, that's the way
entire
it is.
logistics of how he grew up.
Yeah.
And
Like,
he's like, I can't deal with this.
On top of that, a lot of them are like, you know, they do jujitsu. I'm like, no, you might think you're going to pick on someone and get your ass beat. And then there'll be like a nat 20 on your ass, you know.
Yeah, not anymore. Not anymore.
anymore.
The label system is like out the window now.
For sure. When did you start playing D&D or tabletop role-playing games?
So... Actually, technically, my buddy in like 7th grade, I was over his house one day and he was like, you want to play Dungeons and Dragons?
Yeah.
And I was like, I've heard of this before, but I don't know what it is. So I was like, yeah, sure. And like 2 hours later, we were barely done making a character. And I was like, I'm out, dude. I can't.
Yeah, you can't
do this. Like, let's play Super Smash Brothers or something. You know?
Right.
And then cut to, I'm in my mid-20s. I'm like 5 or 6 years into doing stand-up.
Right.
And I'm living in Brooklyn. I moved to Brooklyn with 3 strangers off of Craigslist. Like, very risky.
I feel like that's how most people move to Brooklyn.
I think, well, I don't know. Maybe some do, and then that's their horror story, where it's like, I lived there for a year, and I finally got out and had some, like, decent roommates or something.
Yeah.
But I got lucky. Like, most of the people that I've lived with through pure chance, I'm still, like, pretty good friends with.
Cool.
Like, so one of my roommates, we'll call him Brian, because that's his name, and he'd hate that I'd use his real name, but I won't say his last name.
Okay.
Plus, I'm only going to sing his praises.
Okay.
But, so I moved in with him, and we get along and everything, and it's not like we hang out outside of the apartment, but, like, we're home all the time anyway. We get along. And he starts hosting, like, a monthly game with his, like, college crew that he's been playing with for years, you know? Mm-hmm. And at first, I'm giving him shit, like, lighthearted shit. Like, I don't really mean it. I'm like the DJ at the radio station.
Yeah, you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I'm like giving them lighthearted shit. And then once a month, if I happen to be around, they usually play it on like Sundays. So like usually I'd be back from the road, or like I'd be doing shows, and like they would play at like 2:00. So even if I had a spot that night, I'm probably hanging around the apartment most of the day. Yeah. And I'd kind of give them the common space and stay in my room, like stay out of the way, you know? And eventually they just sounded like they're having such a good time.
Yeah.
like the FOMO starts kicking in.
I feel like I picture you like cracking your door, like poking your head out, like what's going on here?
A little bit of that, more like let me go like make a sandwich in the kitchen, and like they're playing right there, and the dice is rolling, and I'm seeing the theatrics of like Brian doing his thing. He's a fantastic DM. He's been playing D&D since he was like, I don't know, 10, 12 or something, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
So he's already got a decade of experience, and I know nothing about it.
Right.
And I'm watching them play all the time, and they just seem to be having so much fun. And I was like, you know what, man? Like, can I play for like one session?
Yeah.
Like, give it a shot. And of course, he was like, sure, but you got to go through you got to make a character. You can't just come in as XYZ. It's like, you got to do it right.
Yeah.
And so I made my first character, and I played that first session, and like very quickly, I was like, oh, I'm into this.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's like
I don't know
heroin.
if I would. I'm like, I don't know if I would do it outside of the apartment and with other people and stuff. Like, it was kind of like. Because you know yourself, there's so many styles of play.
Yeah.
I also personally think like Joe Strummer said, a band is only as good as their drummer. I think a D&D campaign is only as good as the DM.
Oh yeah, 100%, to keep the game flowing. I mean, arguably, like you can also have players that are just like not fun to play with.
Yeah,
I think
true.
You're right though. Like the DM really like guides it. Have you tried DMing ever or?
No, and I've thrown it out there a few times, like maybe we'll do a one shot, like a one quick, or a two shot or something like that. It's something small that I can manage, but it's still, it's very daunting. Do you DM?
I do. I said like I'll try some one shots, and now what I find myself doing is I'm like the pusher. I'm like, when people are like, I'm not sure, I'm like, I'll run it. I don't want to DM for people who know way more about this than me. I get self-conscious a little bit. Yeah. So like I have, I have friends who are like, I've always been interested. I'm like, oh, I could do a one shot for you. And that way, like, I'm the one who knows the stuff. But like, it helps me out a little bit. But I bought like, there's like a website called the DMs Guild, and you can pay like $2.50 for a one shot someone wrote, or like a snippet of a full campaign. And it's easy. That's easy for me. And I had fun with it too. I did it recently, and the party wasn't strong enough, so I rolled up like a silly Kenku ranger to be like the NPC. But it's fun because Kenku can't talk; they can only mimic. It's like, I don't know if you're familiar with that race at all, but they're like a crow person. I'm not. So they're like a crow person, and the race was cursed, so they can't fly and they can't talk. They can only repeat like a yak back. But if you play, like I've had friends play a campaign where like they'll play an older Kenku who like kind of speaks almost like Bumblebee does in like these weird snippets. But I made mine young, so they would just be like, you want to go get a drink? I'd just go like, get a drink, like, that's it. So I was
that's pretty good too, because like you don't necessarily have to make up some whole backstory then for that character. It's like, I'm sure they got a backstory, but they can't tell you.
He was a ranger. He was a ranger named Danger. He was Danger the Ranger, and I
Danger the Ranger.
So but that way it was
I'm very big into D&D names. That's probably my favorite part of making a character. Everything else is like, it's all about the name. It all comes down from the name.
What are your favorite names that you've made so far?
So I'll go through. I've played 4 characters, and I'll tell you all the names. I won't get into anything about them really, other than like what they are. But so the first one, I also think a lot of the time. All right, so a lot of people play D&D to be like a heightened version of themselves, I think, or to be something much different than how they are in real life.
It's hilarious. Katrina said the exact same thing, because she was all about like, she's kind of really into psychology, so she's like trying to pick up on how people's cues. But yeah, she said the exact same thing. So
did she talk at all about Delta Green?
She did. It was hilarious. So she was like, I think it was Delta Green, and then I was like, we had just done a Call of Cthulhu one shot on here. And I was like, what's Delta Green? She's like, oh, they go insane. She was like, it's based off of who made the spaghetti monster thing. And she like couldn't remember. And then I was like, Call of Cthulhu, H.P. Lovecraft. And then she was like, oh, that. And then she mentioned, then that's where you came in. Where I was like, Dennis Rooney plays? Like, let's do this too.
We'll get into Delta Green later, because I do have things to say about that.
Right.
But so my first character, as far as being very different from me or being a lot like me, it was definitely just a heightened version of me.
Yeah, okay.
I knew he was going to be a smart ass. I knew he was going to be like, I don't play by anybody's rules but my own. Like, typical kind of like, I mean, it's very cliche, but whatever. That's what I was getting into. So he was a tiefling rogue.
Okay.
Trickery Darson.
Trickery Darson? Nice.
Trickery Darson was the name. Trickery, obviously, a little on the nose.
Yeah.
Darson, you get the little fire kind of Darson thing going on.
Okay.
My second character was a ranger. I forget. I think it might have been a half elf.
Okay.
I'm very casual in a way with D&D, where like everyone who I've played with was miles more experienced. So I was almost there just like as the comic, like comedic, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Keep things light. God forbid they actually asked me to like remember something that happened 3 sessions ago. I'd be like flipping through my notes maniacally, like waiting for someone to jump in and save me, you know?
Yeah.
But my second one was, and this is probably my favorite name, Badger Quackenbush.
Badger Quackenbush. Okay.
Yeah, so, you know, and he had a dog with a missing eye, and the dog's name was One-Eyed Willie.
Nice. That was the ranger, the half-elf ranger.
That was the ranger. Yeah. Nice. It's a little both on the nose, and the One-Eyed Willie thing is immature. But I just after 3 sessions, you don't even think about the penis connotation. You're just like, it's just the dog Willie, you know?
Yeah, it's just the dog Willie. Yeah.
we had Halo Sizzlack.
Halo Sizzlack. What was he?
Who was, I think, like he was a bartender. That's Mo Sizzlack from The Simpsons. Halo Sizzlack. Okay. And Halo was, guys, I wanted him to be just a very like nice, like try to what's the not chaotic, what is it? Something good?
Chaotic good?
Not chaotic good, like the very straight and walk the line one.
Oh, lawful good.
Lawful good. Yeah, like, I wanted him to be like, we don't fuck anyone over. Right. No innocent bystanders. Like, let's try to do this right.
Right.
And then my least favorite character was one I just played with.
Okay.
We did Curse of Strahd.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and we started it like over a year ago. We only just finished up maybe a few weeks ago, and it was one of those things where like my DM goes, yeah, we'll do Curse of Strahd. It's a short, like kind of railroad one, and I was thinking like 3-4 sessions.
Oh no.
And then a year passes, and I'm like, are we gonna fucking kill this guy or what? Like, what's taking so long here? But his name was he was a, what's the robot ones? I'm so bad at this.
The robot? Oh, the
they're not really robots.
The Warforged?
Warforged.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I think they are technically like robot-y kind of things.
They're robot-y, but God forbid you say that to their faces, you'll be called a racist in Dungeons and Dragons.
I mean,
it was a robot, but he was a robot wizard novelist, and his name was Render Sordesco. And like, I probably put more thought into the names of my characters than I did the entire campaigns I played with them. You know what I mean? But I had fun with all the characters. Trickery was much more like me, and then after that, it was like all my characters wind up being fun. Like again, I'm very much like the relief, the comic relief whenever we play. But then I'd have shining moments where it's like, oh, Dennis actually remembered something useful or did something useful, and it'd be like, yeah, good for him.
It's hard to break that mold when like you're so used to trying to be funny all the time, and like I've tried to like get away from it sometimes with some characters and be a little more like serious. We jump around a lot because like when people can't show up, we just like play. So I'm like, I love, like, I have character ideas that I probably won't play for another couple years, but I have like character ideas that are just in my back pocket. Like I'm ready. Like we
just brewing on the back burner.
We just we're actually finishing it tonight. But like we did a Christmas one shot, and I've had this paladin idea since like June. And I was like, Gabriel von Gingersnap. I was like, he's going to be a paladin. He took his oath to Santa Claus. He's going to be redemption. He's going to try and get people from the naughty list to the nice list. And then if they don't, then they end up on his naughty list and they die. And like, I had it.
I like that. I like that redemption.
Like 2 months ago, I was like, are we doing a Christmas one shot? And they're like, we can if you want. I'm like, we have to do it. Because like, I have the character. It's all ready to go. So like,
Gabriel von Gingersnap demands it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I love that. So,
yeah, being the comic relief, especially, I mean, the people I played with knew I was a comedian to begin with. So, like, and obviously, anytime you're with kind of a group of friends or people, you're just kind of on. Yeah. But I did have to learn to, like, pull it back a little bit where it's like, be funny, but take this seriously. And, like, if you get caught in a riff, it's like, just look at the DM, make sure he's okay with it. Don't do it at a serious part. You know what I mean? I've gotten a few slaps on the wrists over the years where it's like, Dennis, like, pull it back. And I'd be like, sorry.
Well, there's also, like, you forget that in same way, like, I don't know, like, how much of a gamer you are, but, like, in Skyrim, like, you can go to a town, and if you're an ass, you can't go back. like they'll kill you or arrest you, and like you forget sometimes that you're like, oh, like when I say jokes on stage, it's not serious, but like if I say a joke to someone like a guard in a campaign, they might take it seriously and I'll get in trouble, and there are repercussions. There are repercussions in comedy too, but like, you know.
With me, I often got I got this one from the DM where he'd be like, "Do you actually say that?" I'd be like, "Yeah, I don't say that." Yeah. We came all this way. I'm not gonna shoot us in the foot now.
I had a situation where like I said it, I was like, "But my character doesn't say that," and they actually were just like, "No, actually, we're gonna just." My DM was like, "No, you say that." I'm like, "What the hell?" I was like, "The one time."
Did it work out in your favor at least? Or?
That's like, complicated.
Repercussions.
There's it was some sort of champion of an evil god that thought I was hitting on her, but I really wasn't. And then I got in trouble. It kind of worked out. It was all right. No one died. But
that's interesting when things get steamy in game, you know.
Listen, it can happen, man.
It happens. I mean, imitates real life. You know what I mean?
It's funny. I find it hilarious, actually. We're doing my buddy just started a monthly game, and I made a female dwarven cleric. And she's basically a Karen. Her name's Deborah Barbera. It looks like it's spelled Deborah Barbara, but there are 2 R's in it. And she's like a thirsty, sassy broad, let me tell you. She's she's thirsty and sassy, but there's rules and you got to follow them. Right after
she's a Karen, I'm assuming,
we were
right?
interrogating like a cultist, and I was like, "Who's the manager? Tell me who he is."
Trying to get it out of him.
Yeah. So was Curse of Strahd your first like full-length campaign that you played then?
Oh no, not by any means. That was the first one though where I don't know what you'd call it, I guess. Every other campaign I had played with my DM, it was kind of his own original homebrew, yeah. And I mean, I'm sure he's pulling from certain things. I mean, but overall speaking, it's like, and actually, I'll throw it to you. Maybe these are characters somewhere out there, but he had this guy called the Lord of Blades. Is that a thing?
I don't know.
All right, so I think fully homebrewed.
Half of this podcast is me also learning about stuff because I'm not a great reader, so I like people to tell me and talk. Like I like learning about. Like I've learned so much about Curse of Strahd. I've never I don't read the book because I'm a terrible reader, but I love to listen.
Right.
So,
well, it's also hard where like. I mean, if you pick up like a D&D book, it's just, again, it's daunting. You're like, I got to kind of have a loose knowledge of all of this. Like, it's there for reference, but you don't want to slow down the game. You don't want to break pace of play or immersion or anything. Yeah. And it was very rare for my DM to have to like be like, everybody stop. I got to look something up. Like, especially in combat or something. Like, he kind of knew almost everything. Yeah, I think a lot of that. I mean, I'm not a good, like I said, I don't read well, but I'm good at watching and I'm good at listening. So like when I watch videos, like if I was trying to, like I never played a paladin before and I didn't really know, and I can read through the book, but like I will watch a YouTube video of someone just being like, this is how you should build your paladin, this is like this and that, and it helps me better that way because it just like explain it to me. When I read, like I have ADD, my brain will just kind of like go off. But so when you built your character, did you do any research, or did they help you with your characters most of the time other than the name? So once I built my first one, building the others was kind of easier. I would always hit up the DM and be like, I want to be a ranger, like what should I think about? And he'd just throw me a few loose, like, you know, keep in mind this with animals, blah blah blah, like nature, etc. But he made me roll though always for characters instead of using like the standard. He gave me the option where he's like, if you want to do standard array, you can, but like if you roll, we're keeping those numbers. You know what I mean? Like he was very good with like putting his foot down in certain places. The monthly game we did a standard array because it was my buddy's like first time DMing, so he wants to make sure it's like balanced so it creates less work for him, right? Because like you can have one, but I love rolling because like I love having a dump stat. Like I love having like one of my favorite ones is like I made like an artificer or whatever, and like even my turtle wizard, he's like super smart, but he has like a -3 to charisma, so it's hilarious to like try, and I'll still like try. It's so funny to just like I love to try things, or like intelligence is a really fun one. Just you're like, what, reading? And then you roll and you're like, I got a -1. I don't know anything. I'm like so dumb. I've played some really dumb. It's very fun to play like a dumb character, as long as not everyone in the party's dumb. Yeah. It's nice
You
to
gotta
be
be
the dumb
careful
guy.
with that, because like sometimes, I guess for some reason, my friends and I like all link up, and like we don't really communicate all that much, and we'll be like, we'll like meet up. Thankfully, it's usually like a one shot, and like, which stat did everyone dump? Oh, we all dumped the same stat. Either it's usually charisma or intelligence. So it's like we're.
I was gonna guess Arcana and be like, nobody knows anything about history.
Yeah, the intelligence. Yep, Arcana. Any of those. It's so funny. Yeah, I enjoy playing. I kind of want to mix it up one day and dump like. Because like sometimes I don't know if this makes sense to you. It's something that has bothered me. So people will dump intelligence a lot, and they play like this dumb. I push the button even though I know I should, or like I can't push the button. In my mind, isn't that kind of more wisdom based? Do you get what I'm saying? Is like.
I feel like there should be a stat for like common sense.
Well, that's
wisdom.
What I mean?
Like,
they say like
this common sense, I guess, falls under wisdom.
They say
then,
intelligence is knowing a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing to not put it in a fruit salad.
A fruit salad. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
So yeah.
My characters weren't often intelligent, but like, yeah, that doesn't mean they're stupid. It means like they don't know a lot. Also, I think almost intelligence kind of implies like scholastic knowledge, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. So I always found that a little daunting. And when someone was playing like the dumb barbarian, but they have like a great perception and wisdom, like, no, you're not. You just can't read books. Like but you know to not walk through the door without looking what's on the other side before you fully go into the door. So I think that's my list next time, is to play like an unwise character. Like I want to dump. I don't want to see anything. Like just like head in the clouds. Like
I feel like if you play a super intelligent character with low wisdom, it's like you might as well you're kind of playing like someone who has autism. Like that's what you're role playing as. You know what I mean? It's like they're not. Really... They just lack certain things some people have. Some people are good with this, and some people are good with that. You know what I mean?
It happens a lot. There's people out there with street smarts, but like got straight A's but you know, couldn't do school at all. And then there's like those straight A students who are just like, you're like, how do you walk across the street without getting hit by a car?
Yeah, how do you not? Yeah, there's the person who's like super smart, and then they get conned out of all their money the first day they move to New York. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're like, how could this happen? I was top of my class. But it's like, you're also kind of an idiot.
Yeah, exactly. No, I know. So that's next on my list, I think, as I wanna play a dump wisdom, because it's a really bad stat to dump. It's like
that's a tough one to dump.
It's a tough one because everything is like perception. I'm like, no, I'm just not gonna.
I always love playing a character with high perception, just because I like to. That was something I learned early on, where it was like, what are good questions to ask the DM? Watching other people play, and like, because there's unique plays that you're gonna do depending on the environment, but then there's things where it's like, anytime we enter a new space, it's like, do I notice anything out of it? Does anything stick out? There's shit like that where it's almost like covering your bases.
It's also something you don't. When you're doing a role-playing game with dice, like, you don't think about it. Like, for me, I'm a super observant person. That's like my whole thing. Even with comedy, like everything that I do is mostly observation-based. So like to walk into a room, Tom naturally looks around, but like the character in a D&D game, like, you need to ask, because I guess it depends on what your character sees, and like you don't really think about it. Most people walk into a room, they look around. But you need to. Yeah. You're right. That's a good question.
I think some people also think like, if anything's important, the DM will lay it out before them, and it's like, no, he or she might be sitting there like, I hope someone asks about this painting that's hanging up on the wall that I mentioned amongst 3 other things. But it's like, picking up those cues from the DM, and again, my DM was very good with me, where it was like, especially so like my last character was the Warforged Wizard.
Right.
And I think I was like 12 sessions in before my DM was like, you know, you have this really cool feature you haven't used yet. I don't even remember what it was called, but I was like, what is it? And I go and look at my characters, and I'm like, oh yeah, I've been overlooking this thing. And I'm like looking at my character sheet all the time. But it's just one thing where it's like, I don't think that's anything that's applicable to me in most situations. And he's like, no, you're not reading it right.
Trait or something, or like part of or was it part of whatever type of wizard you were?
I think it had more to do with the wizard than the Warforged. Yeah. That's how I kind of learned that I don't think I like being able to cast some spells.
Yeah.
But being casting centric was not for me. Like my character,
go ahead.
the
Sorry.
Warforged. No, I'm sorry.
No.
Like my character, the Warforged, I realized quickly on, I was like, this isn't my most enjoyable character,
right?
And I have to ride this out. Like I can't. Yep. I could have said at the end, like, we need to kill this guy off, and I'm coming in with somebody else. Yep. But you kind of live with your consequences. It's like, no, we'll play it out.
I 100% agree. I made a half-orc bard as a joke for like a silly one-shot thing we were doing. And because of the type, like the people that couldn't play at that time are now not playing, and it is currently my main character. And I went to the DM and I was like, please, like, the players know this, so I don't care. But I was like, you got to get this character away from me. So she tries to steal the character into a different portal to a different plane, and I'm sitting there half the session while watching my teammates, my other players, save him. Fight, and I'm like, and I didn't want to tell them, and I'm just sitting there like quietly, like, just let him go. Yeah. You're gonna find him later. We're not killing him off. I just need a break from this character.
It would kind of ruin the immersion of the narrative to be like, guys, I know it's out of your characters to not help this guy, but like, I want to get rid of him. It's like, well, it's not, you hear these horror stories of people like doing shit that ruins the fun, and they're like, well, that's what my character would do,
right? And
it's like, there are lines with that where it's like, your character doesn't have to be an asshole all the time, but your character should be trying to save this guy who he's been cool with for 12, even a one shot.
Well, the funny part about it is most of them actually hate me, but they found out that I'm probably important for the story of what needs to be done, so they're like, no, we have to keep him alive. So you stuck it out though with this. So you don't think you'd go like with a full caster again? You'd probably do like another half caster. Or...
Well, now I've kind of been, and that was the guy, Halo Sizlak, the bartender. Mm-hmm. He was a paladin. I forgot that word. He was a paladin, and cool. He had some casting abilities and stuff, but. Yeah, I think now I've played a few different kinds of characters. So the next one I play, because I'm actually between like campaigns right now, I told them, so like we used to play in person maybe like once a month, once every other month, which I could swing, no problem. Right. And then when quarantine hit, we had so much time, we were like, let's play every week for like 3 hours, 4 hours, Yeah. And that was great for a while, but once things started going again, I was like, I can't commit 4 hours a week to D&D. Like I'm trying to do stand-up every night, or as much as I can. It's hard. I mean, it's still hard. I mean, things are going away now. We won't get into it. But but now that I've kind of played a few characters, the next one I do, I think, will be very self-servicing again. Like my first one, Trickery Darson. You know what I mean? That's actually... So those people who I started playing with, one was my roommate, the DM, and the other 3 were his friends. He wound up marrying one of them, and the other 2 also got married. So I'm very much a fifth wheel kind of to this.
That's hilarious.
To my D&D experience. But also, his 3 friends, like Brian, the DM, got to know me by living with me for a year or 2 before I ever started playing in his campaign. Right. But all those other people only socially knew me through D&D. Yeah. And they tell me still, they're like, you're still in my phone as Trickery. Like that's who they kind of relate to me as, Nice. It's that character. And this past year, I think it was for my birthday, one of the players is into pottery, and she made me this mug based on awesome. Trickery. Pretty cool, right?
Very, very cool.
The Tiefling Rogue.
Very, very awesome.
And so I don't know. I also like the idea of like letting a character sit for a while, even years, and then be like, what are they up to now? You know what I mean? Like, let's bring them back.
That's a cool idea. I like doing that too. It's fun. That's like the one thing, like the fun times is like we'll do like a lot of one shots here or there. And I like to bring in the other characters, and then I'll like reference past one shots and stuff, and it's just like,
right.
The characters in game don't know what I'm talking about. They're like, why doesn't your character like pie again? And I was like, well, don't worry about it. It's from the last thing, but
it's a long time ago, but they can't give it up.
Yeah, exactly. It's great.
It sounds like you play more like what's your longest campaign been?
So I was like, I never played. Before quarantine, I actually never played. I always wanted to. Or kind of like what you like. I played once or twice with like people, but we were like drunk at a party, and I was like, I don't know, let's just play. And I didn't know what went into it and stuff, and it was just like people were drunk, and then they just started killing each other, and I was like, this is weird. Mm-hmm. But I always wanted to try. So when quarantine hit and the big axe came down, I like just started playing, and I got really into it. And I haven't had the strong will that you have to be like, I can't commit. Because I play once a week, usually.
Nice. That's
once
cool,
a week. And then now I'm doing like another once a month. But you know, the good thing about the once a month is I'm off on the weekends now, so I can like what you were saying, like I can bang one out from noon to like 4 or 5, and then go do my spot or whatever.
You still have free time. But it sounds like you also play mostly over like Discord or over the internet.
Yeah, so I was born in this, like playing. The monthly game is in person, and that is like I love playing regardless, but like playing in person is like a next level thing, and it's
great.
Bought, like,
it's
minis,
so much.
And I got my mini, my first mini, and we have like a map and stuff. It's tough. Playing virtually it's hard because I think it's just easier to get distracted, and it's hard to not talk over people, and I think it like adds it just makes it a little more difficult.
Yeah,
but
I think the online thing, like you said, because another thing that people who don't play D&D don't realize, and like I've brought people in to try playing D&D. Sometimes it's stuck, sometimes they weren't into it, but like I'll kind of give them the heads up, be like, you might not do anything for 45 minutes. Like the attention might not be on you for a little while, depending on, not all the time, but then at the same time, the attention might be on you for 15, 20 minutes. You know what I mean? So you kind of there's that give and take of, if you're in the room with people, it's a lot harder to like look at your phone and people are like, hey, pay attention. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas if you're on the internet or whatever, like the way we would play Satellite was we wouldn't do any video. We would just have Discord audio.
Yeah.
So I mean, of course, there were times where I'd be like, what's on Reddit? You know what I mean? Like, let me scroll through a few things but next thing you know, you're not paying attention and you miss vital information. And later on, they realize you weren't paying attention, and then you feel like a jerk, you know?
Yeah, it is tough. And like, I think that it would make it easier because like we play on Discord too. And the one thing, like we started off playing like on Zoom, and the one thing I liked better on Zoom versus Discord is you can turn you can get rid of your face. Because that's what weirds me out is like looking, like even now with our conversation now, like looking at yourself talk is a weird thing. When you're in the room with someone, you don't see yourself. And I wish that's one thing. If anyone from Discord ever listens to this, like just make it a toggle to turn, like I'll still have my camera on, but I just don't want to see my own face.
Yes.
Like it's just, that's not natural.
Self-conscious is not something you want to be while playing D&D. You kind of want to leave that shit at the door. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not easy.
Tell me about, so you played mostly Dungeons and Dragons, but you have this one experience with not the off spin of Call of Cthulhu, I guess. What was it?
Curse of Strahd?
No, the other system that you played.
Oh, the Delta Green.
Delta Green. So because I've played Call of Cthulhu now, what's the main difference between, do you know, like Call of Cthulhu versus Delta Green?
I don't know Call of Cthulhu in relation to Delta Green, but I'll say that Delta Green is like a hyper-realistic D&D-esque engine where while you as a human are firmly planted in the basis of reality, the things that you're going against are who originally came out? Lovecraftian.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So like it reminds me of like X-Files. It reminds me of the SCP, I think it is, that thing on the internet.
So it's
like
very
database
similar. Because that's what Call of Cthulhu is too. Like I think Call of Cthulhu, they tend to base it a little more in like when we did ours, it was like the Old West, or they do like, Victorian Britain or whatever. And it's like the same thing. You're just like investigate. Sometimes I've seen ones where they're just like, they're at an auction and they're just like, oh, I'm a private investigator from blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden some person's head rolls through the door and then they start to go crazy. But
Call of Cthulhu can be like kind of set in any time period, it sounds like.
Yeah.
You can kind of make it work like that.
Yeah, they can mix it up. So I don't know like what Delta Green is.
Delta Green, I'm pretty sure Delta Green is always like current times. Or actually so Delta Green, actually, now that I'm remembering a little bit more, I'm pretty sure they have different story narratives that you can pluck and be like, we're playing this specific thing, you know? Mm-hmm. And they'll give you a time set and they'll give you all the details because it's very much like detective based. And like I imagine with Call of Cthulhu, one of the big things is you're constantly just fighting to keep your sanity.
Yeah.
Like you're so far in over your head that that's one of the things I did like about Delta Green, where if you saw some otherworldly monstrous thing, even if you just saw it like from a distance, the DM's like, well, you better roll for your sanity. And I'm like, wasn't even near it. It's like, but you've never seen anything like that before in your life. How are you handling it? I'm like, that's a good point. That's a good point, you know?
It's a big game changer when you're like, I'm a superhero basically, and I'm powerful, and I just like, oh no, I'm just a person, and I just saw like, you know, this crazy thing happen, and then you're like, oh yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, I would definitely start to lose my mind. I like that. I also like it. I like the, like, I go back and forth, but like I am a combat junkie. I love like doing cool, crazy stuff in combat, but like the story building, especially with something like that, where you're just like, all right. So my character was not crazy. Now I'm starting to go crazy, and I have to like be that person now, and that adds like a fun spin to like roll. That's like where the real role playing games lie.
Right, and with that, you kind of like going back to the whole like, oh, that's what my character would do. At least with that, you're like, hey, my character's insane. What do you want me to say?
Yeah, no, it's true.
I'm trying my best to keep it.
I lost so much sanity that like I had to like relentlessly attack whatever was near me, and we ended up away from, but it was like for 4 rounds or 2 rounds or whatever, so we ended up like getting kind of vamped out from where we were, but we were still in the so I had to swing against my friend. I missed her, but like she didn't know that though, so I was like, I'm like, where are we? We're at the bar. Okay, cool. I turn to her and I throw, and she's like, what? I'm like,
I'm insane.
The boss told me I had to do it. The boss told me,
Yep. As opposed to D&D where like, if you get into a role-playing position where like your back is against the wall, you can kind of always muscle your way through it, or like, or fight or flight kind of, you know what I mean? Whereas with Delta Green, the DM told us this, I guess GM told us this at the start, was like, very few people will win this game. Like, you're probably going to die, or at the best go insane. Like, don't expect, whereas when you play like a one-shot or a homebrew, it's like, you know, someone might die or horrible shit might happen, but it's like, we're rooting for you. Like,
most
we're
of
probably
the time,
going to get through it.
Yeah. I haven't had like,
not always.
I've had a one-shot character die once, but other than that, I haven't had like an actual, like one of my long-going campaigns, knock on wood, I haven't had someone like legitimately die yet. But Call of Cthulhu, it's a different game, but there's a lot of fun systems out there.
I've had 2 deaths over like long-term campaigns where it was like, holy shit, I can't believe this happened. But both times, all that really meant was that it's like, and you can see it on the DM's face where it's like, well, I didn't expect this person to die.
Right.
And I couldn't save them through my DMing even, like they, you know, they got fucked up, where it becomes like, well, now the next 4 sessions are, how are you going to get this person back? Yeah. And it's like, I don't know. Does anyone know how to revive someone? And it's like, oh, the local Yorton tribe tells us that there's, you know, some way that in ancient rituals, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, I guess everything else is on the side now. We got to get our friend back. And then, you know, the friend is doing their own kind of thing in the spirit world. This way they're still in game and stuff.
So you had a couple of your characters die and they brought them back that way instead of like
2 times, really. It was only 2 times.
And did you prefer that over like rolling up a new character and just our buddy's dead, or?
They weren't me either time.
Oh, okay.
So both times, and I was kind of like, we got to get back so-and-so. Like, what can we do? Like, my character was distraught. Right. Like, does anyone know anything? You know? And also because this is over the course of playing, like, I guess like 6 or 7 years. So it's not like, it didn't feel cheap. You know what I mean? It felt like it was earned. And also it felt like we could die while trying to get this person back, or we could fail trying to get this person back. Yeah. But you do as much prep work as possible. And luckily we got him back both times. This last one, Curse of Strahd, was my first TPK, total party kill.
Oh, no. That's how it ended?
Well, so check it out. So we finished Strahd. And then there's this kind of like, I compare it to like, have you ever played Dark Souls?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, so like, you know, there's things where you have to do them, and then there's like optional bosses. Okay. That you could even go back after you beat the game and be like, well, I'll still take care of this boss.
Oh my god.
The face you're making, I know.
I feel like I know where this is going. All right, so you beat Strahd.
So we beat Strahd, and then it's like, we're going to have a wrap-up session, say goodbye to the locals, what's everyone going off to do next. And during the wrap-up session, it's like, well, there's still so-and-so up in the mountains. That's something that might need to be taken care of, or everything we've done is going to be for naught. And it's like, well, of course. So then the wrap-up session turns into 2 sessions where it's like, let's prep and then let's go fight this thing. And we got our asses handed to us, dude. It was, but I was so happy. It made me so happy. Like, because there's got to be stakes. And I know I just said that my DM has brought people back from the dead, but again, very, very rarely.
You finished
and
it.
And we did finish it. Like,
but,
we finished it, but now us dying the second time means that like all our work might be undone.
So now we're in like the nitty gritty of where this show, because we could do another like few minutes. How did your whole party die in this one encounter? Like, was it like instantaneous, or was it just like you just got overrun?
Not instantaneous.
Okay.
It was one of those things where like you have to do this ritual and you have to maintain whatever integrity of the ritual for a certain number of rounds. And while that's happening, there's also, like mini bosses or henchmen type things coming to get you. Mm-hmm. And it was one of those things where like we all got hit with like extremely disabling spells.
Oh no.
Excuse me. And then next thing you know, this thing that needed to go for 7 rounds is starting over. And we got 4 rounds in, and now we're 2 rounds in, and then we get started over again, and we're all taking damage, and we're all running out of potions and spell slots and blah, blah, blah. And we just start going down one by one, basically.
Oh, no.
It was great, because I also, again, this was like my least favorite character.
Okay.
And I told the DM, I was like, if he dies, I'm cool with it. I'm not saying we need to kill him, but like if he does die, he's cool with it. And little did I know, my DM was like, everybody might die. What are you talking about? You guys got your work cut out for you, I do want to share this with you though, because I think we're coming down to the final minutes. Have you ever done a battle royale?
I have not. I'm very interested. Is that I had one guest on my show, and she organized the battle royale for her players, and she described like she made the map trigger all these traps and stuff as they were going. So did you did a battle royale?
So for my birthday years ago, I asked the DM, I was like, let's do a battle royale. Like that sounded so cool to me, and like it could be a one shot where there's no lasting things on our characters, but and he was like, all right, sure, let's do it. Like he was like, I've done them in the past. They're not always what you think they're going to be. And I was like, no, this is going to be great. This is going to be fun. Yeah. And so he makes this cool map with like traps and with different platforms. Like it's a full map, and there's things that you can, certain potions that you can find that you could use, blah, blah, blah. And also it was like a dream state. We were all in a dream state. So we all went from being like level 9 to level 18. Oh. So we kind of re-rolled our characters to be like, what would your character be like at 18? And you just get, the higher you get some crazy things where you're like, I can do what?
I've never played
absurd
like that
shit.
high, but like I've played up to level, I guess the highest I've played is now level 9.
Okay, that's when it starts getting cool. Yeah,
it starts getting cool, but yeah.
I also think after like 15, you almost get overpowered. You get
that's what a lot of people say. It's like it's not worth it at that point.
Yeah, you don't want to play too low. You don't want to be level 3 all the time. You don't want to be level 18 all the time. But there's a good middle ground in there. Yeah. So he sets this up, and me and my friends are all playing, and it got heated, man. It got heated pretty quickly. Yeah. And like, as people start dying off, like you could tell they're genuinely upset. Mm-hmm. Or like upset with how you fought them, like what strategy you utilized and stuff. Yeah. And I had one friend in particular who like, at the end of every session, we're like hugging. All right, guys, great to see you. She was like, all right, I'm out of here later. And it was like, oh no, she was pissed, dude. And of course, I mean, like the next time we got together, everything was fine. There was no actual residual ill feelings. But at the time, you're like, I can't believe you would do that, Yeah. And it was cool. That's one thing I think that could be fun. I went to PAX one time with them a couple of years ago. I think the year before quarantine, I went to PAX with them, which if anyone listening doesn't know, it's the biggest tabletop gaming convention ever, and they go all through the whole country. And like, it's not just RPG games; it's any kind of tabletop game. So there's a real wide mix of people all across the nerd spectrum. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I said, what would be really cool is to walk around PAX, because they have rooms dedicated. Like, hey, you want to play D&D? Here's a banquet hall with tables. Like, go ahead. Right. There's no one in there to run it. It's just tables, and you have your fun.
Yeah.
I said it would be great to walk around with a sign that says like 5th edition party of 4 looking for a fight, and just find another strangers party and be like, all right, we're all going to be level this, and like both DMs can kind of work together to keep it fair. I thought that would be really cool. We haven't done that yet, but I would like to try that someday.
That would be cool. That would be fun. I think it would be like, I don't know. I feel like it's like anything where it's like if you think you're good at chess and you just like, who wants to face me in chess? And then someone, like, I feel like there's going to be some wizards out. And I don't mean like a wizard like how you roll a wizard. I mean just some D&D wizards who know how to play this
combat
game.
Enthusiasts.
And will build something horrifying. Like, oh, that's the road we're going? Like, forget this. Like, But it would be funny. It would even be funny to throw down and be like, oh, we're going to do this, and then just get wiped by some guys or girls that have been playing it for like 20 plus years, and they're just like,
right,
these guys don't
that's
even
the fun
know.
of it too. D&D, it can't always be about winning. It's like, it's more about like just the rule of cool and just having fun. You know what I mean? Like, just try to have fun with it.
Absolutely. This was great. Man, this was so fun. I think I might call this episode just skip the side quests, but we'll see what we go. We'll see what comes up with, what I come up with.
Interesting. Thanks for having me on, man.
Did you What's up? Oh yeah, definitely. And who knows? Maybe one day we'll round up some comics or something and do a short little thing or whatever.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Did you want to plug anything before we get out of here?
Yes. I deleted all my social media except for Instagram. I'm only on social media because I do comedy. I would be off that shit otherwise. But follow me on Instagram and check out my podcast, Netflix Bookclub. You get it anywhere you get your podcasts.
Nice. And just send me those links too. I'll put them in the descriptions and stuff.
Sure.
All right, awesome. Thanks anyone who's been listening. This has been You Had to Be There. Once again, if you want to be a guest on the show, you can just email me at youhadtobethere@dndpodcast@gmail.com. The music for my intro was created by Michael James McGarry. You can find him on It's MJ Made on Instagram or SoundCloud. My logo was created by Nicole Summers from the Reliably Chaotic podcast. And you can follow me at Tom DeSillis Comedy pretty much anywhere you find stuff. All my links are in there. But thanks again for listening. This has been You Had to Be There, a D&D storytelling podcast with Dennis Rooney. Bye, everyone.